Hi everyone, this is the second part of the syllabus video. So in the first video I ended at the exam part. There was one last thing that I forgot to include in that, and that's that if you have little time breaks in your respondus or something like that happens, I may ask to meet with you on Teams. So if respondus completely crashes, nothing works, then you'll probably need to use your final exam replacement. And then, like I said, if it's the second time, what we'll have to do is I'll have to meet you on Teams and you'll have to retake an exam. But sometimes with respondus, there will be like little timeout sections where maybe like 2 to 5 minutes of your video isn't showing. If that happens, what I'll do is just ask you to meet me on Teams and to explain your work on a couple of questions. That way I can hopefully validate that you actually did do the work and that it really was a respondus error, not you intentionally exiting to like look stuff up or ask somebody for help. And we don't have to, replace the whole exam with the final or have you retake the whole thing. So that is in the syllabus just in case we need to use it. I haven't had to do that too often, but when I have, it's kind of a nice little backup just in case something happens. So let's continue on with the syllabus. The final exam is what's on here next. The final exam is cumulative. That means it covers all of the content throughout the quarter. It is going to be on August 13th. So I can't remember if I said this already, but the regular exams will open a Thursday at noon and close the following Friday at, I believe it's 5 p.m., so close of business, meaning the latest that you could take it would be Friday at 3 p.m. The reason that I said it like this is because technically for online classes, the week goes from Monday to Thursday, so I wanted to keep it open on Thursdays for those of you who kind of had that online schedule in mind, but I also wanted to give a little bit more time just so it wasn't like that specific of a time frame. So I'm able to do that for the first 2 exams. For the final exam, we only have one final exam day during summer quarter, and the quarter ends that date, and then I don't have very long to finish grading everything. So what I'm going to do is just leave the exam open, the final exam open on August 13th, which is the last day of the quarter, from 12:01 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. That way you can take the final exam anytime within that time frame. I would kind of book out maybe 3 hours for the final and an hour and a half to 2 hours for regular exams. It shouldn't actually take that long, but I'm also leaving time for the respondus and the submission, which I've already told you about previously. Okay, so I talked about exam follow-ups. All right, makeup exams. Like I said already, if anything happens, the final exam replacement is the first option. If you can't take the test, like let's say you already used the replacement and something happens with the second exam and you can't take the test on that day, you're definitely going to have to provide some sort of valid documentation. All of these dates are posted in the end part of the calendar ahead of time, so I do expect that you make arrangements to make sure that you can take the exam, and I also have them open for a lot of hours and overnight, so that hopefully will accommodate everybody's work schedule, whether they work day shifts, night shifts, etc. So need a valid reason to be able to make up an exam. All right, makeup or late homework, skills check, discussion posts. Right, you cannot do late discussion posts, and that's because the discussion boards are open during certain time frames, and that requires discussing and participating with your classmates. Therefore, it's not really something that can be done late. However, with the homework and the skills check, you cannot turn any of that stuff in late, but you do get 1 drop in each of those categories. So you get 1 dropped homework assignment and you get 1 dropped skills check. So let's say you don't get it done on time, you can drop it. Let's say you have a really busy week and it's going to be really stressful for you to do it that week. You can drop it. You can do all the skills check, and then we can just drop whatever your lowest score is. So you have some options, some leeway there. I like to leave that in for number 1, emergencies. And number 2, I understand that sometimes we're going to make mistakes. Maybe we'll do poorly. Maybe we just forget to take it. And I want to make sure that there's something in there that gives you at least a little bit of a leeway. So that is what those drops are for. Okay. The excuse of technical difficulties for late submission. Okay, so these are not going to be accepted as excuses. The reason for that is it ends up being a huge snowball effect. So a lot of people will just keep making, oh, I had technical issues, this was a problem. All right, we have to be strict on deadlines. Summer quarter is rough. I'm going to explain that later. We need to make sure we're getting stuff on time. It's already pretty flexible in that most items you have a full week to do. In the skills check, you have 4 days to do. The exams are a little bit more strict, but if you think about taking a class in person, you have to be there on the exam day within a certain hour. So even that's pretty lenient, pretty flexible, I should say, in comparison to usual. So you're expected to do your work on time. What I would do personally is make sure you do things ahead of time. So where I see people having issues with late submissions is when, and I can see this, they don't log on to Canvas until Sunday and they don't do anything until Sunday, and then they leave themselves to the point where they just have this tiny pinch of time. It's not going to be a recipe for success. So get on there, do stuff ahead of time, turn it in. If you're having issues submitting anything to Canvas, like homework or handouts, just take pictures with your phone and send them to me via email before the due date. So if you say, oh, sorry, I couldn't submit it, the Canvas wasn't working, then I'd say, oh, well, you could have sent a picture. So technical difficulty should not be used as an excuse. Do things ahead of time so you don't have to worry about turning in things last minute and have time to adjust if something happens. All right, extra credit in this course. So there will be some specified handouts, some activities, and extra discussion posts that will count as extra credit. So these things will all be given to the entire class, meaning I will not make exceptions and then only give extra credit or only give some opportunities to certain people. A lot of times at the end of the quarter, I'll have students say, oh, I'm doing really bad. What can I do to make up my grade? Or, what can you give me? I'll say, yeah, it's not really academically honest, and it doesn't show good integrity on my part if I'm willing to give assignments to some students and then not to others. So my advice there is take advantage of the extra credit that you're given throughout the course. Work hard on the regular credit throughout the course, so then by the end of the course you're not feeling like you need to send emails asking for extra exceptions or extra credit beyond that of which everyone else has access to. To give you more details on discussion post extra credit, if you answer more questions than you actually have to for that week, you'll get a small amount of extra credit. What I do ask for that is you wait until the post is up for a day or so other people have a chance to earn regular credit. The exception for that is Sundays or the days before exams when people have posted questions and nobody is answering and there's not much time left to answer. Okay. All right, grading. So these are just a list of the weights for participation: 10%, homework 10%, skills checks 20%, exams that should be 60% total. So all exams are worth 20%. I follow just a standard BC grading scale. I do round up if you're 0.5 and up. So let's say the first grading scale is from 93 to 100. That's an A. If you had a 92.5, you would get an A. If you had a 92.4 or something less than 92.5, you would get an A minus. So that works for each category. Grades I try to be pretty prompt about, honestly, but I would give everything 5 business days max. So my goal is usually within a couple of days, but within 5 business days is reasonable for grading. I try to be pretty good about updating regularly though. Okay, books and materials required. So the book required is listed here. You can get, if you don't want online homework or you don't care if you have that or not, you can just rent or buy like a cheaper used copy of the hardcover. You could just buy a regular ebook without the whole online package if you wanted. If you want the online homework, you'll have to buy the text that comes with the access code and WebAssign. And I will send that information, or you'll see the information on how to get into the course through WebAssign once the class actually starts. Okay, other than that, I suggest using pencil, and you will need a microphone and camera for the respondist, as I've already stated. Okay, there's Canvas help links if you need that. Classroom atmosphere and expectations. Okay, so this chunk of the syllabus just basically goes through expectations that I have beyond just making sure that you get the work done and you're being responsible with that. So I think it's really important to know a couple of things for online classes, and that's because I think sometimes there are misconceptions. This tends to be more true for calculus, actually. So first, I think it's all really important that we remember calculus is kind of your lead-in to what I would call like real math classes. So when you see algebra and pre-calc and pre-calc 2 is a little more like a real math class because you at least have trig identity proofs and things like that. But I think the misconceptions about math or what students think is it's just like you get these equations and you do stuff with them, and then there's like a process that you go through and you copy that process every time. If you understand the process, you're good. If you don't, you're not. So basically we view it as I need to follow the rules and that's it. There's really a lot more thinking with math that goes on. It's more complex, but at the same time, if you have a full understanding, I think it's a little bit more interesting in all the like interconnections that you see. So calculus to me is kind of cool because it's where students start to see like, oh wow, like yeah, that concept I learned in algebra, that was being used now I understand like why we might have to factor. You start to see where all the stuff connects. So if it were up to me personally, I think it'd be pretty cool to start with something like calculus that involves all of this algebra and then teach that as you go so people see like, oh, this is why I actually need to use that. However, you take it over all the other classes over a year, maybe 2, and then in calculus it comes into light like, oh, this is what I use this for. So anyway, prereqs going to be super important. All right, huge misconception with online classes are that sometimes people think they're easier or they're less time consuming. That is not true. You have to take more time reading directions to figure out what you're supposed to do. And then you have to take the time that it requires to submit things electronically. I do try to shave down as much as I can in the online class, but I am required to uphold you to certain standards. I am required to meet certain outcomes. And the reason I feel strongly about especially some of the content in the course is because some of you are absolutely going to need that in the future. So I would be maybe causing harm to your education if I chose to just ignore stuff, which is why I don't do that. So there are a couple of things that I've cut out that I'm like, okay, it's good to like have the basic idea of that concept, but it's not essential in the future. There are things that I have to keep in the course. I promise you I am making it the least amount of work as I can reasonably, but we do have to meet standards. So to give you an idea for time. All right, what I have here is just the Bellevue College credit load, and I think this is what some students may not quite understand. So if you look at a credit hour, okay, we see 5 credits hours right here. 1 hour of lecture or classroom discussion. Okay, this is for 1-to-1, so that's for 1 credit hour. Okay, for a 5 credit hour, basically for each credit hour, what I'm trying to say is, okay, you have 1 hour of in-person, in this case online. So 1 hour of like lecture time or whatever you do when you're in class, could be group activities, etc. Okay, you're expected to meet or do stuff for 2 hours outside of that 1 hour. So I think sometimes what students don't realize is by the college's definition, a reasonable amount of time for a course is 15 hours per week. That's during a regular quarter. You are in summer quarters. So in summer quarter, if you haven't noticed, we take that 12-week regular quarter and condense it to 7 weeks. So you're doing the same amount of work in slightly more than half the time. It's kind of nice because it's like a quick sprint and you get it done in a shorter period of time, but it means that you're spending more time during the period of time. So it's really important to keep that in mind, really important that you are going to have to work a lot and work hard. The silver lining to that is at least it's just 7 weeks. So if you can sprint through it and work hard, hopefully you'll be okay. Okay, so those are 2 key things to keep in mind. So just go through the bullet heading on the rest of these. Like I said, I expect you to turn things in time. So for the online version, that would be being punctual. Please be respectful to myself and your classmates in communication. Try your best to have a good attitude. So the class, like I said already, for most students is no doubt going to be tough. But try to keep the best attitude you can while getting through it. And I think that in general in life, if you're able to be as positive as possible, it does end up helping in the long run. All right, make sure you ask questions if you have them. I know sometimes it can be a little bit hard to, but I really don't mind and I really will try to help. So whether that be on discussion boards or you email me and say, hey, I'm struggling a lot. I don't even have just one question. I have a lot of questions. Can I meet with you? I will try my best. On the discussion boards and the times I'm on, I usually try to look over what other people have said and confirm if it's correct or not. And then I'll also try to get on and like answer with little videos, or if I'm in a position like I'm in a meeting where I can't record a video, I'll try to record responses. So I do get on at least once, but generally more than once a day and look at those. So I will do what I can to help you. I encourage you to ask for help. And while some people have a love-hate with the discussion boards, it's a requirement to ask at least one question, so you don't have to feel bad or embarrassed about asking a question, because everybody is technically required to either ask or post something that they think is helpful. Okay, like I said, prereq skills, really key in this class. If you've forgotten things, that's okay, but you're going to have to be self-reflective and notice, oh crap, like I forgot how to factor, and go look for resources or ask me for resources on how to remember those things. Or you could even go to the math lab after finding maybe a little worksheet and have a tutor help you with it. So just be really mindful of that. Last thing, like I said already, I'm happy to help you. One thing I do expect of you is that you look at notes and you've tried the assignment first. So what's kind of tough is if somebody comes into office hours and says, I don't know how to do derivatives. And then we've learned like 8 different techniques. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, what part of the derivative? So it's really helpful if you have something a little bit more specific or maybe a question. And then a lot of times if we look at a question together, I can tell if there are like little underlying things I need to go over too. But generally having more pointed questions will help me help you because I'll know what I need to focus on when we're working together. Okie doke. These are kind of standard things. So the college does have or make exceptions for religious holidays. If you have some religious holiday that you need accommodation for, there's a specific link that you need to fill out online, and I can give that to you. So you can email me or you can look it up on the college website. Either way is fine. We are a non-discriminatory college, so that's a Title IX statement, and you can read through that if you wish. Right? Division policy on cheating. If you cheat in the course, you will absolutely get a 0 on whatever assignment you cheated on. I will absolutely report you to the behavioral support team at the college, and then you will be reported to the science division dean. They'll decide what to do from there. So usually the way that goes is if somebody is on their first incident, they might just get a warning, maybe more depending on how bad the cheating is or how dishonest they are about it. That's happened multiple times. You do risk expulsion, removal from the course, etc. I've had some real issues with this with online classes, so please do not cheat. Follow academic integrity. It's not going to help you in the future if you tend to cheat to get what you want, like a good grade. So I advise not doing it. If you do it, I will be strict on it, and that's because we've just had so many issues, and it's something that I feel strongly people should not do. Okay, science division policy on etiquette. Essentially, even though you're doing stuff online, you should still be kind to people. So we've found that when you're online and you're not face-to-face, or some people, they tend to be a little bit more, I guess I'll just say rude, and it's not okay. So basically, whether online or in person, try to be kind. Good rule of thumb is if you're upset about something, maybe a grade, before messaging me, if you know you're really upset, then you might want to wait till you calm down and then send an email with inquiry. I will go over anything with you. If you think I might have made a grading error, if you just tell me, hey, I think that there may be an error here, tell me and I will for sure look at it. I'll confirm if I agree with the grade still. If you still disagree, what I usually do is send it to another faculty and say, hey, like, how would you grade this? And then I compare my grading. I don't tell them what I graded. I compare it with them, and then maybe use what they gave if it's higher. So I do try to be really fair about that. You're welcome to ask. Please be kind when you do so, though. All right, here's some more important links. DRC. So if you're enrolled with the Disability Resource Center, please try to communicate with me about that within the first few days, and just make sure we're on the same page as, what you need, what I should be doing, etc. So it's really helpful to communicate that about that promptly. All right, and these are just the academic calendars, so it tells you enrollment dates, deadlines, the last day you can withdraw, etc. So if you're thinking about withdrawing from the course, you might want to check those dates. And then the last little course calendar on here just has the main, or like the biggest assignments. So these just are list quizzes and exams to give you an idea. I think what's probably going to be more helpful is looking at the weekly modules on campus. The calendar on Canvas, not campus. The calendar should be pretty updated. So like I said, I'm going to upload as much as I can before the quarter starts and try to keep chipping away at it. So that will give you a pretty good idea of dates and expectations. But the things that are really key to keep in mind are just the exam dates, because those are, kind of all within a day or two. The rest, you have a little bit more wiggle room. Okay, so long video, but I wanted to get something out to you before the course started. And if you're watching this on the first day of the course, that's fine as well. There will be a discussion board open for syllabus questions. So if you're watching this before the course starts, I just write down any questions you have, and as soon as it starts, pop on there, ask under syllabus questions, and I can answer. You're welcome to email me as well. I should be able to get back to you, although technically we're not in contract to work right now, and I'll be out of town, so I'm not going to guarantee that. But feel free to send a message if you wish. If I don't get back to you, just post it on the discussion board ASAP. In my email, I'm also going to attach a first day questionnaire. It's basically just a questionnaire that has a bunch of follow-up questions about the syllabus. So if you want a little head start on the week 1 work, what you could do is, I guess you've already watched this video because this is the end, but you could fill that out as well, and that will have one of your assignments done and taken care of. All right, so nice to, I guess, kind of virtually meet you, even though I am not seeing you all. But anyway, I hope you have a good remainder of the little break that we had in between quarters, and I look forward to starting some recorders soon. Thanks. Bye.